Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we're going to check out a track from an act named Heart Destroyer titled Hello Kitty Bitches. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. Now this was released on September the 1st. It's gotten quite a bit of love on SoundCloud, like 25k plays, which is dope. It's good. It's nice to see that. We've got the art here for the track here. I love Heart Destroyer. Now this is my first time listening to this act. I should note here this is 2008 MySpace DeviantArt B-Core management contact. Special thanks to Goth Brat, Joanna, Shakar, Alexi, Rex, and Sebastian. So we've got female vocalist, Goth Brat, model, Instagram, Dirt Pixie, mix and recording help, Angel Cannon Music, and the photographer, Hardest Black, which is awesome. So we're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. 2 minutes as well, quite short, but that's okay. Let's go. It's hella intense. I mean, I know that's probably an obvious thing to people unfamiliar or uninitiated with this kind of music. It's very loud. I think it's been pushed in the master chain, but I think it works well with the bit tunish kind of synth arpeggios we had there. The drums with the vocal lines there coming through nice and clearly. Despite that, it's solid. Isn't LA Vinger Boys? That's Vinger Boys, isn't it? Boom, 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 boom. It's their take on it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, oh, they shouldn't use it. It's more like I just recognize the motif there that was articulated in some of those synth bits. You know, obviously this track isn't for kids, but that's fine. Music doesn't need to be. Cutest little body in the world, skinny little frame, spring breakers kind of girl. More bitches than the founder of my space. Your girl on my dick and I finish on her face. Well, I don't give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck. She's fat on my dick, like a couple liters. I think that shit grew like a couple centimeters. Get laid on Monday, get laid on Tuesday, get laid on Wednesday, Thursday won't lose it. Get laid on Friday and Saturday, get laid on Sunday. Every day's great. You'll never be me, even if you try. Got hoes in my room, bored of taking pills, so I'm off for the shrooms. I'm playing like Doom and breaking their hearts. Head over heels when I leave, they go nuts. Boom, 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 boom. Got hoes in my room, about to take my mask off cause I want shrooms. I'm on 5 lines, she's at the chunky mine. Hello Kitty bitches try to do this every time. Oh, cool. The Pokemon thing at the end. Alright. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Heart Destroyer titled Hello Kitty Bitches. This is going to be one of those reviews where, like, I talk about it from, like, a sort of, you know, quote-unquote professional reviewer perspective, but then I also will briefly talk about how I personally feel about it, you know, upon listening to it. I would recommend that if you are wanting the point of the review, you focus on the professional feedback part, but if you want to hear my 2 cents as well. What I think this track is about, if I'm honest, I think it's just a guy talking about getting laid, all the kind of sexual exploits that he has with the woman that he's with, which is, don't get me wrong, you know, it's good for you, man, it's cool. It's great. It's good. The thing is, I feel like I'm being condescending, but I'm not, because that's the premise of the song. It's discussing that. Got bored of pills are talking about that. That the music is very chaotic, so I'm wondering if it's almost like a parody of that lifestyle, how like kind of wild things are. I think it's got more of like woman than like the person of MySpace or something like that. Which, to be fair, I think Tom in 2008, he was off He'd sold MySpace and like just kind of left to go. I mean, maybe he got. I mean, it's none of my business if he got laid a lot, but I think he kind of just like went off the radar completely. He had nothing to do with it after he sold MySpace. But look, I can appreciate that it's like a vibe and like a style, and it's something to talk about. And I think the story was told well. If we examine it purely from the perspective of someone talking about their lifestyle 7 days a week, you know, and getting their sort of dick spit on and it growing 2 centimeters and stuff like that. I know there was more to the track than that, but like that was a lot of it. And to be fair, you know, with an honest review, I listened to the whole of it. I think the first part of the song was me kind of taking in the actual, just the intensity of everything, and then kind of getting to kind of terms with what the story was about. If we step away from what I think the song was about, with the understanding there's probably more nuance there and I might be missing a few things, but that's just on a first listen basis, we had the vocal performance, which I think was good. I think for the style of music that we were doing, the way we sang, the way we performed was solid. I don't have any complaints about that at all. We told the story in a way where it made sense, we were confident, and we were just with it, and we were engaged. And I think that we sang along really well to the Vengaboys motif there, the melody that we had within the hook parts, which is dope. I think that you know, like any other sort of vocal overdubs were great as well. There was a lot going on there, so I think you kind of had to hold on for dear life to really kind of absorb everything there. But aside from that, it's okay. Music doesn't need to be an easy listen. It can be this, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I feel like I'm giving a lot of caveats because as a music reviewer, I've learned that I have to give caveats. You have to be careful what you say, because you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and I mean that genuinely. It's not about hurting people's feelings, but yeah, it's interesting. I think that the vocals were performed well. We had reasonable head and chest voice. We sang in a way that was respectful and worked well with everything else that was going on within the composition. And yeah, it was catchy and charismatic, and it worked well. Would I have preferred to have had another hook idea, worked off another melody? Maybe, but it's okay. If it's like a parody of the boom boom thing, that Vengaboys thing, that's fine, man. And even then, you know, who am I to tell a person what to sing in a song? You know, like if they want to use that, that's cool. It'd just be cool to hear Heart Destroyer have an original hook that's completely original, because it would have been one thing if it had just been the vocal theme that was sung, but it was also the synth lead as well that we had in there that kind of mirrored off that. But moving on, I think that the song at 2 minutes 10 was great. That was a good length for this. I think there was a lot going on, and for a first impression, it was incredibly heavy. Like, it's heavier than a lot of the rock and metal that I listen to, you know? And don't get me wrong, I am not like... I have heard stuff like this before and enjoyed it. I've reviewed music before that's had the chiptune stuff, like the overly kind of distorted stuff, the bit crushed stuff. It's cool. I like that stuff. Like, I like the kind of like the heavy kind of hardcore stuff. Like, I enjoyed like dubstep back in the day, etc. I like my big heavy sounds. It's cool. 2 minutes of this is good, especially for the intensity of the subject matter. You know, again, which is, I don't have a problem with, I'm not a prude. The intensity of subject matter combined with how just, you know, it's hyperpop. So by virtue of hyperpop, it is going to be fine. And if my personal views on how I feel about the track are outside of what might be considered that this genre is a thing, I can review a track without necessarily being completely familiar with the genre that it is, because I can grade it on how it's written and produced and how it sounds and how those ingredients work. That's a thing you can do. For it to be a rush of blood to the head, for it to be kind of like an adrenaline shot, for it to be just really just in your face and kind of throw you into the gauntlet and then finish off with the Pokemon Center sound at the end, I don't think we could have had it longer than this. I think 2 minutes was a good amount of time, and that's great. You know, I mean that genuinely. I think that the track with the primary elements of the vocals combined with the synth parts, the bit crushed bass or whatever else was going on with the pad stuff, and the kicks when they came on, or the various levels of percussion, were exactly what they needed to be at that point. I think that if you're going to go big, or you may as well go big or go home. So we had that here. There was very little dynamic range to this, as you can see in the sausage waveform that we have on that part there, and that's fine. There's no reason to need dynamic range as long as it doesn't, as long as the listener is either familiar with the genre and you've niched it, or if it's short, and it was short here, which was good. Again, that motif da 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 with what we were talking about in the story made sense for that party vibe. It was just a far more intense party. So in that way, I can see it as a parody. So I think that works. In which case, it's fine. It's good. Hello Kitty bitches. You know, I understand that now. If that was the aim we were going for, where it was like a parody thing of the original, where it's just like a far more adult party, then that's dope, man. That's cool. It was a very simple bass line, very easy to understand what was going on with the progressions there. When those, you know, quarter note kicks came in with the accents there, with the hi-hats and like any snares or whatever that were going on, that was fine. The percussion was well placed for it. The ingredients within the instrumental arrangement made sense. The vocals sat well with it. We clearly understand our music theory and composition. The motif itself sounded like a completely jacked up version of like it kind of, again, I keep referring back to Vengaboys because I'm trying to find a connection between why we use that theme and why, you know, why, and my mind is saying, did Vengaboys was that even their original theme? Or did they take it from something else? You know, yeah, and I've put Vengaboys as a tab and stuff like that, so it's absolutely fine. I don't really know what they could have done to improve it, with that motif being just like a really intense jacked up party vibe, lots of, you know, sex and pills and all the other kind of happy stuff going on 7 days a week. If that's the kind of aesthetic orally that they wanted to describe within this, it worked. And again, I'm not going to pretend this music is for everyone, but I can nonetheless appreciate the effort put in. If I look at it from a commercial perspective, I don't know how massively this is going to pop off, but to be fair, if it's niched well and if there is a set of people who enjoy it, then that's what matters. With music like this, where they're like a subgenre of a subgenre, you're going to get hardcore fans, and that's all that matters. You know, you're not making pop singles or doing like kind of like boomer rock or anything like that. You're making music where you know people. It's like a very, yeah, I get it, and I think it works. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering is just a big brick of dynamic, just consistency there. It's loud most, if not all the time. It just kind of kicks you in the teeth with how loud it is, but it's what it is. It's short and sweet. The vocals come through clearly. The mixing and leveling is solid. Things are nice and wide in the stereo field. Things are niched well in the frequency spectrum. I don't think that there was no dynamic range, very little dynamic range, and I don't think that was something it wanted to have in the first place, which is fine again because of the length for the final time. The overdubs and other bits of vocal bits were interesting and nice additions in post, and it was nice and loud it was weird because they understand their studio production too. It didn't sound like it was choking on itself despite being as loud. So it also was nice and loud without pumping. So yeah, it's a really unusual. It's like a success story, but it kind of flies in the face of a lot of what I would typically expect to work. And I think just for me personally, just outside of my feedback on it, this would be something I'd listen to in little bits. Anyways, thanks for watching my review of this track from Heart Destroyer titled Hello Kitty Bitches, and hopefully enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via the various social medias and a SoundCloud page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.